happy with President Cyril Ramaphosa. Other civil society groups have been opposed to that signing for months now. They claim that in the dying days of the Fifth Parliament, ANC MPs rushed through legislation that would rob 18 Constance Mogale. Thank you so much for coming in, Constance. I know you've been a massive campaigner for this hashtag, Stop the Bantustan Bills. Firstly, let's talk about then the distinction that comes into effect as a result of this bill, because where people are affected or the locales in which people are going to be affected, if it, it moves you from being a citizen effectively to being a subject of a particular tribal authority.
So, yes, exactly the way you put it. So, 18 million people who are living in the former Bantu bill is going to be in, it's the law now, it's going to repeal all other traditional legislations that have been existed. And it's going to strip away the rights and the land rights of the informal land rights of people living there. We all know that the Bantustan is the home of people who with informal land rights. So because of the scraping down of the Communal Land Rights Act, so those people have are living in customary land rights that are recognized by institutions of government. It is going to be easy for them to consult, because what they've considered a barren, dry land, and they have dumped black people into it, they have now realized that it is a wealthy mineral rich to put their hands on it. The only intention of trying to formalize those areas into being title deeds is for them to facilitate transactions. But we know that the law, the Interim Protection of Informal Land Rights Act, requires that the land rights holder, whether formal or informal, must be consulted. But now they want to uphold the rights of the traditional leaders so that they take a shortcut. They don't have to consult you as the land rights holder or as a household, but they will only talk to this man.
You take a look at some of the communities in the northwest, and a few others that one can mention, where communities have simply decried the fact that their rights over land have been given away to mining companies or sold to mining companies from the process, and yet they've been dispossessed of the land which they used to use to feed themselves. Are you worried that this might happen in this case too, except on a much bigger scale?
I'm not worried. I know it will happen, because if you look at the Section 34 of this bill that is being signed, it gives the powers to the traditional leader to enter into deals with third parties. They're not explaining third parties, but we all know that third parties will be big mining companies. The people who are living in it. So we are so worried, we're panicking, but we know that the president has signed it into law, but he has not declared an operational date. So until he says effective from this date, that law will be operational. Operational arrangement for that law. So, but now, as for now, he signed the bill into law. So, but because it is not operationalized, they will default to the Traditional Leadership and Governance Framework Act. You know why? Because the traditional leader who has not complied with Section 28 of the Traditional Leadership and Governance Framework Act by going to elections and making sure that his council is 30% women representative and 40% the people must nominate. Traditional leaders have failed to do that from 2003. The reason why this act has been amended in 2009 and now recently is just they couldn't. They were given extra 5 years to do that. They couldn't. The 5 years from 2000, they've extended themselves. So without them going through that, the deals that they may sign will never be valid, because according to the law, if you haven't complied and democratized your council, then you are not legally empowered to sign any deal. So that's how, I mean, now they have operation. She signed 2 bills, in fact, the amendment bill of the Governance Framework Act and this one, and he immediately operationalized the amendment bill of the TLFGA, because traditional leaders don't want to comply with democracy. And we are asking ourselves now, what is the role of this institution in the new democracy? And we are seeing Parliament, what says Parliament, it recognizes that explains what the role
that were made to him by organizations such as yourself.
We are just amazed. We are just overwhelmed. We don't know what to say. We don't know. I hope the president is looking and listening. We don't know what the president is working for. We don't know which side of the fence is he sitting. And we suspect that because the president has been going with foreign companies and getting investments from this one on that one. And this issue of investment, how do you go around getting investments without prior consultation and consent inside the country? So the problem is now the land which the investors are looking for is the land in the rural areas. So that's the problem, because that land is not surveyed. That land that belongs to the people. So by giving a traditional leader powers to sign that land is to just, overpass the other sections of the laws that says a person affected or who was previously disadvantaged must be, the tenure rights must be upheld. Section 25, subsection 6 of the South African Constitution says we are protected as people living in rural areas.
Do you think that by signing this bill, the president is somewhat undoing the work that the Constitutional Court started to push for to get done as far as the release of land tenure rights are concerned? But then we also have the Section 25 process, which is the amendment to the Constitution that deals with land redistribution without compensation. So do you feel that these are 2 processes or that are...
The president is so confused. The president, the former president, Mohlahlana, in particular to this bill that the President Ramaphosa has just signed with recommendations, the same President Ramaphosa, Cyril Ramaphosa, appointed a panel of advisors of the land reform panel, which also came with a recommendation on this particular bill. At the same time, there is discussions in Parliament on Section 25 and the possibility of amending the Constitution to allow for expropriation of land without compensation. Who's advising it? He knows, but he knows that a constitution deals that are signed by traditional leaders who were not legally compliant, and those deals can be challenged, because without them having a legal standing, then it means all those deals are invalid. You know, I thank the people of Kolobeni and the rural areas and the Bakatla, Bakafela and all others, the Kala Reserve, who are struggling and resisting. And if you look at the history of resistance of traditional leaders who are imposed as according to the Bantu Authorities Act, it started long ago. And I don't know what, because Cyril Ramaphosa was a champion of this new democracy. I don't know who's advising him, whose voice is just to acknowledge our letter. You know, he goes around meeting all the other stakeholders without, he will never meet the rural people. But he knows that by the time this bill is struck out of the roll by the Constitution, those informal land rights holders.
Sure. It sounds like an absolutely devastating situation, or at least the repercussions then of this bill sound like they'll be completely devastating for the rural communities that they'll be affecting. This is a story which I think we need to explore a little bit more. So you can expect to see more on it then on News at Prime, and trying to get more of the stakeholders that are involved here and to look at what's truly at stake, and perhaps also try and get the presidency to respond, of course, to some of the comments that have been